Hi, I'm Carrie, a stroke survivor and member of Bind.
And I'm Kezia, a stroke survivor and member of Bind as well. And for this episode, we'll be focused on aphasia, since it affects so many brain injury survivors. If you don't know, aphasia is a language disorder that affects a person's ability to communicate.
And we are welcoming Nikole back to dig a little deeper and get a little more maybe advanced into aphasia and what it is and what it's not and all that good stuff. So welcome back, Nikole.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Bindwaves, the official podcast of the Brain Injury Network of Dallas. I'm Brian White, Bind's Executive Director. On each episode, we'll be providing insight into the brain injury community. We'll be talking to members and professionals regarding their stories and the important role of Bind's Clubhouse. We work as a team to inspire hope, community, and a sense of purpose to survivors, caregivers, and the public. Thank you for tuning into Bindwaves. Let's get on with the show.
Thank you for spending more and more time with us. It's exciting.
So I think kind of one of the big things, I know there's several different types of aphasia, and I know Kezia thinks I know all the terms, but I just kind of know them. I just say random words and people think I'm talking about. But I also know there's this thing called apraxia. Is that also aphasia, or is that different?
That one's different. That's
Okay.
how you get your words out. There's like a disconnect between the brain and the mouth, and the words just aren't coming out. And from there, there's like verbal apraxia and limb apraxia.
Okay.
So some people can have apraxia and aphasia.
Oh.
Okay. But it is different.
But it is different.
Okay, so we may need to circle back and do some episodes on apraxia. See, Kezia, I learned something new today, too.
Okay. So since it is something completely different than aphasia, I think that was some misunderstanding that we had as brain injury survivors and the terms that we also hear from other people. But can we backtrack a little bit? I think in the previous episode you did mention about global aphasia, and I learned a lot in the last couple of minutes. So you said it had something to do about global aphasia, and then it kind of being more specific for other issues. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Absolutely. So in aphasia, we can have two different kinds where it's fluent and non-fluent.
Oh, okay.
And so somebody with global, that's going to be, when I think of global aphasia, I think of something that almost overtakes the whole brain. And so they are unable to understand, they're unable to read, write, they're unable to get their words out. It's like global. So they would have problems with both the fluency and then the non-fluency of it. And then when it goes to more, we can have Broca's aphasia and Wernicke's aphasia, and there's another one, anomic aphasia, and I'm going to check out my notes. We've got the mixed non-fluent aphasia, and then the primary progressive is another one we've talked about, and there's another one, transcortical. So there's a bunch of different types of it, but it basically, they break down into if they're fluent or non-fluent. So the best example is Broca's. I think I mentioned it last time, where Broca's aphasia is non-fluent. They're getting one or two words out at a time, but they make complete sense. Where Wernicke's aphasia, they're getting words out, but it does not make sense, but it flows, and it's got good intonation, and it's got good volume, but what they are saying doesn't make sense. So that's what makes it fluent, is that it's able to come out in an easy way. Whereas the non-fluent, it's broken. It's just very harsh, and it's one word, maybe two at a time.
Now, how does that compare to, and I mean, of course, I can only relate back to those people that I know that have aphasia, but like Carl mentions, he only knew one word.
Right.
And of course, that word was noodle,
Right.
which can only be used to mean noodle. But in his brain, he was noodle, 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 noodle. So what is that?
And with Carl, I would think maybe Carl had more like the Wernicke's, because he could go up and say noodle, 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 noodle. And, same thing with,
Jim,
Dr. Pepper guy.
Yes,
he was saying Dr. Pepper, but in his mind, that's what he was saying, but it wasn't coming out. It could have been, gibberish where it's,
Right.
And so again, that's just that fluent where it comes out, and it's to them, in their head, it's processing exactly what they're saying, but it comes out. Where it's still precise speech, you can understand them in the sense that they're making sound, but you can't understand the message they're trying to say.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is a lot.
I know,
this is a lot.
It's very different.
Yeah, it is very different because when we're communicating here, like, for example, here at the clubhouse at Bind, we're all brain injury survivors, and we've all had it's a different story for every single person, but I don't think I've ever really, like, heard these specific words and explanations. So this is just a whole other level. So this is really cool. This is this is cool. It's not cool, but yes, it is. It is a really good, good information to have accessible.
Yeah, and that is one thing that you kind of mentioned in the earlier episode that is something that we really take to heart here at Bind is we say we do non-traditional therapy. It's therapy by doing.
Right.
So we encourage and embrace our friends with aphasia and talk to them like they're normal people so that they can feel good and talk about and know they can go a little slower and they can take their time. And we will patiently wait for them, which helps them in turn just with their speaking and being able to get better with aphasia. And I think that's kind of one thing we didn't touch on earlier. So I always hate asking this question because I know it's different for every survivor, but can you recover from aphasia?
The doctors like to tell people if it doesn't come back in the first 6 months, it's not going to come back type thing. But you just never know. Like, the patients, I think that they say that the first 6 months are the most crucial because that's when insurance is paying for therapy. Mm-hmm. That's when you're going to get your therapy at the hospital and you're going to get your inpatient rehab. And if you've got the private insurance, you're going to get to go to PATE or CNS. You're going to get to do all that, and you're going to get a lot of therapy in a short amount of time. But, people, they continue to work, they continue to talk, they see their loved ones. The brain is amazing, and it can definitely, just because it's not working at this area, maybe it switches it up and something can turn it on, and so now they're able to say other words. So I don't like to say, I guess when the global aphasia, when is the one that you can really see if it doesn't get better sooner rather than later, then the global aphasia is the hardest one to recover from.
Interesting. And right now, the thing that we were, what she was just asking is that can you get healed or something? And I don't know what word you used, but that's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah. But it's all of it's different. We all recover differently.
Yeah.
Some of us don't even have aphasia.
You could start off with aphasia and you can absolutely recover 100%. And it's just a past time that you talk about.
Now, that reminds me, too, I just thought about this. I have another friend that is not a part of Bind, that she had a stroke, I don't know, maybe it's been about 6 years ago. She doesn't live in this state. And it was a mini stroke. I think it might have just been a TIA. So she didn't have too many problems. But she just recently has been diagnosed with aphasia. So, it took years before aphasia set in.
Yeah. So, and that, we, at my job, we have what's called late effect stroke. And so it could just be there was that lesion in the brain, and just over time, it's gotten weaker, and now it's definitely showing its face.
Interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting, especially because I feel like for me, it was backwards. It just has taken a lot of time, and it's very consistent. Repeat and repeat, like Carl says all the time, repeat and repeat and repeat, like I have been doing for a while now. And I've gotten very, I think Carrie has said it to me before, and other people, the stroke that I had is very hidden. You can't really see it. I can physically, I'm pretty much all right. But inside, my brain, it takes a lot more work than it used to. I went to college, I loved reading, I was in a book club and all this stuff, and those are the abilities that I now have a difficult issue with now. So some of the practice that I currently do, and I did do a lot, when I really needed a lot more recovery, one is a podcast. I talk nonstop. Sometimes I'm tired. I literally get home and I take a nap because it does take a lot of energy. And then the other one is just practicing reading, even if it was one sentence at a time, and now I can make it a whole page, like little things like that happen. But originally in the hospital, what I did was that got more words out was Beyonce.
There you go.
Yeah. And I think I met someone here, or someone came to Bind and did actually it was on Zoom, about how music can trigger that, like to be more effective. So do you have an experience with that?
Yes. When I was in grad school, one of my clinical advisors talked to me about melodic intonation.
Interesting.
And so that is a therapy that you use for singing. And so I do that with some of my patients that aren't getting their words out. And we'll just kind of sing very common songs, the ABCs, the Happy Birthday song, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, Row, Row, Row Your Boat. And I just kind of see how they can do that. Now, some of them, they can't, so then their brain's not triggered for that. But some of them can. And so they just, where they haven't been able to get any of their words out, all of a sudden with that melody, they're able to get words out, and they're fluent with it as well. And so if we're able to do that, then, and I am not a singer, so I am not going to do anything for you, but I'll add like a little tune to it and come up with little things like bum, 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 and put words to it and see if that helps them. And again, it's not for everybody, but it doesn't hurt to try it on everybody, because you might find that one that it does work for.
Well, and that's, again, like you said, the brain is such an amazing creature. And on that note, can I go ahead and ask you to click that like button, click the share button, keep following and listening to us. And I'll go back to that, because what I was going to say is, like, there are, just because that part where the aphasia of the language has gotten broken, where the music is totally somewhere else in your brain.
Right.
So it triggers different neurons, and neuroplasticity sets in, and all those other big words that I like to say that make Kezia think I know more than I do.
And and that's how, after brain injury recovery, I feel like that right side, since we're talking about aphasias on the left side, that right side sometimes has to almost do a little bit more and is working harder. And so maybe that's when that music is really able to tune in for them.
Awesome. And is there other really good ways? I know in the previous episode you mentioned a lot of apps. Is there other ways to continue strengthening your brain workout to make this language find its own way to come out, whether it be understanding, cognitive, or speaking, whatever way of communication? Do you have other ways to work on it that you recommend?
I would say out in society, you could get even a little note card that, can give people the prompt to say, hey, give me a second. And then honestly, just take your time, take a deep breath, maybe practice what you want to say, or have your common phrases saved in your phone or on a notebook so that you can just turn to it, so that you can say those immediately. Just keep working on different, if you have phrases that are hard for you, then that's something that you can work on with a family member that you trust and that can take time and really help you work on it. But also that automatic speech, a lot of people after aphasia, their spontaneous speech is great. I walk into the room and I said, hey, how's it going? Great. How are you? How's the weather? And then I'm like, whoa, that was amazing. But then I say, hey, let's list 5 animals. And we can't do that, because that's that instructed speech, and that's where somebody's kind of coming at you and you just feel this anxiety about talking. Yeah. But that spontaneous speech that's very easy that we talk about, greetings and goodbyes, is very, very spontaneous and just very easy and something that's automatic in you. So I would just say going to and practicing your automatics, and if it's not automatic, have it written down.
Yeah, I know. Steve, Steve. Mm-hmm. He has a letter that he keeps in his wallet,
right,
so that he can pull it out, because he does have issues and he wants to make sure. And it's even there. It says, if you're patient with me and take time, I promise we can get to be good friends.
Because imagine somebody with aphasia, if you're not patient and they see you, breathing heavy and starting to fidget with their phone, and you're just like, that's going to close them up, and they're not going to feel like you are a safe place to talk. Now, in this world, it's not safe,
Yeah.
You're ordering at Starbucks and you got to hurry, you got to go. So it's just practicing. If you're going to Starbucks, if you're going to Chick-fil-A, places that move fast, practice before you go. Get those words out. If it's hard to do it this way, have a backup so I can say this.
Yeah. And right now that you brought up Starbucks, I actually have like an interesting story. Well, to me, it's interesting. I had just gotten through, I had just moved to Texas, and I was at Starbucks, and my brother was like, just go in. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I don't want to speak to people, like, especially because they can see me and everything. This girl was like not happy. Like, she must have had a really, really rough day. And she was like, what do you want to order? And I'm like trying to figure out how to say it. And one of the things actually that I really appreciate for Bind as the Brain Injury Clubhouse, at this point, I didn't feel bad telling people. I'm like, yeah, I had a stroke. You need to get some patience on you because, girl, this is your job, right? Like, I sucks to have a bad day. But I ended up having to tell her that, like, please, like, I need patience. I have aphasia.
Absolutely.
And then it kind of connected her. Like, I was like, oh, I don't know what that is, but must be something sucks, right? Like, and I think at one point that's what I would really love, personally, love people to know, like, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad about it, like and especially like caregivers and family members, like, this is something that a lot of people have to live through. And that doesn't mean, I think as Carl has mentioned before, like, it doesn't make you intelligent. Is that a word?
I hope it doesn't make you less intelligent.
Less intelligent.
Yeah. It just, that confrontation though is what's hard, because you just freeze for a second. It's like, wait a second, let me get this.
Yeah.
Another thing you could do, they all have apps now. Pull it up on your phone, point to what you want.
Yeah.
But don't let the aphasia keep you in.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking that too, that everybody has apps now. It's so much easier to.
And earlier I did say the AAC device, and it's the Augmentative Alternative Communication Device. So there are different apps with the AAC that you can use from simple to complex, that children can use, adults can use.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I guess that's one thing that people probably don't think about. I mean, it's aphasia. It's like, you teach us all the same way. Doesn't matter how old you are when you get aphasia. You're still learning all over. And I think that's one of the things that I still laugh about with Carl. He's like, just learn something new every day. He goes, I may have known this before my stroke or before my brain injury, but I remembered it today. So there you go. That's my new thing today.
There we go.
So, yeah, always practicing to make perfect. But, Nikole, we're so happy that we got you here to kind of dig deeper in aphasia. And we know that's a lot of information about aphasia. So we would just encourage you to learn more about it on your own. And it's getting a lot of news with Bruce Willis right about now. But it's a big deal for people. So just stay in there. And thank you again, Nikole, for joining us. We will have Nicole's information on our resource website when we post the episode. So if you have questions about speech therapy or aphasia, or maybe have ideas like, what else can we do? Feel free to contact us or contact her.
Yep. And if you would like to continue, contact us, Carrie and I, the co-hosts, then you can email us at bindwaves@thebind.org.
And don't forget to click that like button, that share button, and the notify button if you're watching on YouTube. And you can listen to Bindwaves on all your favorite platforms.
Yep. Until next time.
We hope you've enjoyed listening to Bindwaves and continue to support Bind and our nonprofit mission.
We support brain injury survivors as they reconnect into the life, the community, and their workplace.
And we couldn't do that without great listeners like you. We appreciate each and every one of you. Continue watching. Until next time.
Until next time.